Let me start the webinar. So everyone, welcome to our webinar. We had some chats between me and Mark. Yesterday, me and Mark, we done a dry run. Our sound was bad and all of that, but today it's perfect. Hopefully it is perfect. If it's not, please just let us know. With me, Mark Fonce, the author of Have You Got Balls? An interesting book, a book which I looked over. I went through some chapters, but I felt now, no man, this book you must read from start to finish to feel the author. But we won't touch the book at the start, and I will deal with it a bit later on. Mark, welcome back again. Imagine nobody saw the video yesterday. Please introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Hi guys, and thank you, Mohammed, for allowing me to join here on your show. Yeah, my name is Mark Fonce, and I'm the well, let's call it gender-based violence survivor / divorce survivor, and I wrote a book about my journey and adventure that was dealing with a very acrimonious divorce, custody battles, and the usual people like to employ in court. So yes, from that perspective, it's been a long journey. I have written a book called Have You Got Balls, which I'll display to you quickly. We'll go into detail there, and then we will be chatting a little bit about the journey itself, because there are out there, guys and girls, ladies, gents, that are going through acrimonious situations with or without kids. And it seems that there is very often you feel very alone in your journey, finding out, only at a later stage that, oh, but this guy also went through it, and that guy went through it, and it's like all the dirty tricks that you employed, it's almost like a silence thing. So the reason why I called the book is basically as well, what guys don't generally tend to talk about their feelings, and I think it's an important topic as well because it is psychological. From that perspective, we need to focus as guys mental health during these difficult times, because especially when you are a parent, healthy parent, healthy child, obviously in that situation. So yeah, that's basically a rundown of me in a nutshell, and then we're going to a little bit more further details.
Mark, thank you very much for that. Mark, let's take it from this point of view. You are not a legal person. You never studied any legal matters, but you have the practical experience regarding these type of matters, which is very invaluable, because I've noticed with my consultation with many people that have gone through the journey which you have gone through, you give me a deeper insight on the legal system. I'm always on the fringes, judge, law, court, or the other lawyer, but it's invaluable for anybody dealing with these type of issues, family issues, domestic violence, gender-based violence, and so on, to understand that other people went through this process and that it's possible to come out tops like you have. Mark, what advice do you have for people before we go further on dealing with these type of issues? From maybe let's say you're a psychologist, how do you deal with these type of issues, these family disputes and these type of issues?
Well, you have to deal with it obviously on an emotional as well as a mental level, for yourself. What you got to be very careful of is that you keep your head very, very level. I mean, if you're going into a particularly when you've got kids involved, there's very often dirty tricks employed, and very much emotions run high, and you tend to lose yourself in this process as well. Wrong approach, and that's where I think the legal profession should step in more as well, make sure that take the emotion out of the equation and look what is really in the best interest of the children to start off with, and from there on start making decisions for yourself. I cope with it. I have a couple of coping mechanisms, and I think everybody deals with their things differently. But you need an outlet. You need a strong either a family support, a friendship circle, or groups like we run, groups like we have, and then things like that. So it is very important that we keep ourselves sane in the process. It is also very important for not to involve your children in this process, because there is a very dirty trick that's been employed very often. Okay, and this then boils down to parental alienation. It boils down to dirty, underhanded work that happens behind closed doors, which a lot of people don't see. And it's very difficult to prove in court as well. And this is think on an emotional aspect that a lot of the men get taken out. They get taken out financially, they get taken out from emotionally like that, and that's why we see an enormous amount of suicide rates happening as well, which is a situation not only in globally. And from a supportive perspective, there is very little support for men out there. And of course, we have a big drive here in South Africa at the moment on gender-based violence, which we should not diminish at all. Okay, but it's not only a female problem. We have a male problem in this as well. In the domestic violence as such, domestic violence is called gender-based violence now, or partner-based violence. I prefer to call it partner-based violence. A lot of things happen behind closed doors, which you don't see. So these are things like coercive manipulation. It's like I had, for instance, instances where I report things to the police, and that is, you know, why why do you, as a strapping big guy, need a restraining order, or why do you need assistance with this? This is not, this is, you don't need that. And they laugh at you. So from that perspective, you find that a lot of men don't actually talk about their emotions and problems and don't report it. So a lot of these kind of cases get unreported. Meanwhile, it's almost like because they're too embarrassed to talk about it, it's almost like the courts are enhancing the abuse and actually being co-conspirators of this. But it's also because the guys are not opening up. They're not opening up about their feelings. Okay, sure, we all make mistakes. Sure, we all make. We are not perfect parents. We can't. Okay, but what we got to keep in mind and what we got to bear in mind is to look first and foremost after yourself. Be a healthy parent so you can be a healthy parent for your child. Okay, and then you have to also put your child first, specifically when it comes to court cases. Because if you go into court, trying to slag the other party, it's not going to work because the court's going to say she said situation, a lot of mudslinging going on here. Okay. At the end of the day, it's your child that suffers. At the end of the day, it's the children that suffer because they also see this as an example. I mean, they hear much more than what you are aware of, even if you try and keep it away. And they're setting the example, you're setting the stage for their adult life. So from a perspective, it's very important to keep everything in check and go and seek help, go and seek counseling if you can afford it. If not, try and find social workers, church ministers, whoever you can, to try and help you in this situation. It's very, very important.
Mark, thank you for that. I want to come back to the issue concerning gender-based violence shortly. Um, this is what I'm hearing a lot, and you've been somebody that's been through the mill. I looked at your book, I looked at the index, and you've been through it all. The concept of the child's best interest is of paramount importance. The Constitution endorses, the Children's Act endorses it. What is your experience? The magistrates, the judges, the court officials, the system, do they apply it in your view, fairly? I mean, I'm not saying sometimes a person will be disappointed because the court didn't find in your favor, unfortunately not. But what is your view on that? The law says one thing, but what happens on the ground?
Again, I think from a law perspective, constitutionally, as well as the Children's Act, I mean, again, I'm not a professional in this field. I've just experienced it from a layman. So you can at no point take this as legal advice. But from my experience and having learned and read up a lot about it, we have one of the best constitutions in the world. We've got the most progressive Children's Act in the world. Okay. It's the application thereof and the system that's behind it and is supposed to implement it is not working. Okay, and that is where a lot of people keel under and go under. We sue each other for absolutely nothing. This mill, okay, I've got court cases that are pending for since 2014. We're now 2021. This is 6-7 years ongoing. It's just postponement after postponement after postponement, which is nice from a legal practitioner's perspective because you can keep on billing. But from a private perspective, nobody can afford it. And that's where we need to see some changes. We need to see some changes in the speed of things that happen. I've had 2 family advocate investigations now. The last one took 3 years. They had a 90-day mandate. Why did it take 3 years for it is a copy and paste of other cases with some of the names still in, and it actually says nothing. All it said, well, let's leave the situation as it is currently. They did nothing. In the actual judiciary, in the Department of Justice, there needs to be fundamental changes because you are ruining people's lives, not just to adults, children as well. And that's exactly the thing that I also mentioned to the family advocate is you guys hide, number one, behind the term in the best interest of the children. Okay, but are you really applying it? Are you? And I think their intent is there. It's just that the resource there to implement it. So very often a very stock standard approach gets taken out, and let's copy and paste this report, the one, and let's get it out. It becomes a factory. They don't actually look at the merits of the case, and very often you find that in the court as well. The merits of the case are not actually taken into consideration. It's more a case of technicalities. It looks like this, so therefore let's copy and paste that, and we got the report done. Our job is done. Next, and it becomes a machine. And specifically when you go into an acrimonious divorce, very there is, it looks like maybe both parties are fighting, but very often you find that it's driven by one or the other party. And that is where, again, from the psychological perspective, you got to look at, is there a guilty party there? Is there somebody who's driving this? Is this person trying to destroy the other one? And for what reason? Because if you're destroying the other parent, you're destroying your children at the same time, right? And we see the same happening in the maintenance courts. Maintenance matters that are getting postponed and they're getting filed away and they get lost, and dockets get lost, employees. It is a horrible situation. It is a horrible situation because at the end of the day, it's the children that are suffering. We as adults can fend for ourselves. They cannot. And there's lots of women and some guys out there as well that need justice served. And the justice is not getting served because it doesn't even appear in front of the magistrate or the judge.
No, no, Mark, thank you for that, Mark. And it's a serious issue which I'm having also, because it seems to me that some lot of these matters are templated, in the sense of, if you are a mother and you're at home and you unemployed, the child must be with you. The father can't have care and contact, although he's a better care holder, than the mother. Alternatively, on the maintenance court, okay, you live in that specific area, there's one child applicable. No matter how wealthy the father is, you're only entitled to X amount of maintenance. So it becomes concerning. Each case is different. Each case has its own merits, and you need to apply yourself to the case. Mark, interesting, your book. I'm not going to go into much detail regarding your book. I'm going to read it again myself. But there are a few chapters which obviously I found of interest. I'll just mention as we go along. The first chapter, Lawyering Up. The very interesting chapter. What was your experience when you lawyered up? Do you think it made a difference in your case? People can read the book. Well, what is your view on that?
I got a different view now inside on lawyers, obviously getting to know the whole industry and the machine that drives it, basically. So
We want to hear it.
I have
We
I have
want.
fantastic experiences. My lawyer, I mean, he's not specialized in divorce or custody cases at all, but it's for me for my business before. And as a mentor and a friend, I did see a specialist for one session, and I decided that I'm gonna stay with my, well, I call him my family lawyer now, and he stuck it out with me right to the end, and which has been fantastic. I mean, he's mentioned in the book a couple of times as well, quite a few times. So from, yeah, the there is obviously in every industry you got people that are just there for the billing hours, and you got people that are there really for the best interest of the people. So if you need to, there is things that you cannot handle yourself. There are just certain matters you cannot do yourself. A maintenance claim you can process yourself in the courts and things like that. That's set. Even a restraining order, you can do that yourself. Okay, but when it comes to bigger matters, or when it comes to high court applications and so on, and when it comes to technical, then it becomes a different scenario. I think the courts are in a way friendly. If you go to a magistrate and you sit in front of them, and both parties, magistrate will look at the case differently, and when the parties are have got lawyers in place. And of course, I mean, then very often technicality or the rule or that magistrate act that has to apply, and so on. So I think absolutely. I mean, lawyers do have their place, advocates do have their place, but there's a lot of things that can be handled by yourself as well. But it involves reading. It involves, have you got also for yourself the capability to keep your own mind in check, keep your own emotions in check, and actually go for what is real. I mean, there's no point in going to the courts like, oh, my ex brought my child 5 minutes late at the petrol station, and the handover is all stuffed up, and my whole Christmas holiday. It's not going to work. That is just nonsense. No magistrate, that you are wasting the court's time. Solid evidence and things that are just unjust or against the rules, or then you, yes, definitely go to court and sort it out. If there is no other From my perspective, if possible, I would say avoid court, avoid the expense, specifically in family law. It is go and see if you can negotiate. Think really of the best interest of the children. If I would tell you the amount I spent on law and where what it set me back in life, was it worth it? No, it wasn't worth it. The only thing, fence at the whole time. So I had to respond. I had to lawyer up, and I had to make sure that they wouldn't get into trouble. Because I hear a lot of guys, for instance, get a restraining order out on them, and it was based on hearsay. And that, of course, is very dangerous, because that is one of the silver bullets that you can use in a divorce case, is to get a restraining order out on somebody. Is it going to help you? Yeah, it will help you if you go to high court, or if you go to a divorce case and you. But funnily enough, a lot of guys get a restraining order. They've never had a restraining order in their life. Okay. The minute the party starts separating, all of a sudden he's the biggest beast out there, and he's the child batterer, and he's the this and he's the that. So these allegations are super dangerous. And from a magistrate or from a court perspective, they don't know you from a bar of soap. So you've got amount of time in which to represent yourself. But if you come there and you've got a restraining order slapped on your name, it's going to drive your court case in a very different direction than you actually want it to be. So do take the applications of the restraining order. Applied 4 or 5 times against me, and I had to defend these matters because they were absolutely rubbish. They had no basis, and it was all. It was, luckily, it was seen like that by the court as well, and it never got granted. But I hear of people who do not even respond to the application, and then what happens is a month or two later they'll say, "Oh, but I got it got granted, and now it's from an interim. It's now become a permanent restraining order." Yeah, now you got trouble, because now you got to undo that, and then you got to start applying for rescission applications, and it becomes a mess, while the other party is taking you to the maintenance court for God knows how many thousands of rand a month. Another, which is another tool, I believe, specific men just nail him for the money, nail him on his emotions, which is the kids, of course. Don't let him see the kids, and play and play and play and play. And I think then it becomes very dirty. And it happens a lot.
Mark, you see something very interesting, and this is what I tell many clients, or mention to many clients. You get 2 types of courts. You get the children's court, or you get the maintenance court and the domestic violence court. Those are the free courts. Those courts, you do not necessarily require a lawyer, you're right, because filling forms, there are maintenance clerks, there are protection order clerks, domestic violence court clerks, etc. Even possibly the children's court. However, when it comes to serious matters like high court litigation, contact and key custody issues, they most probably require some type of legal assistance. But I like your comment, and I think I agree with you to a certain extent. Sometimes it's just a waste of money to employ lawyers on legal matters. Yes, we do the work. It's like somebody building a pool, for example, in a bad area. Yes, the pool guy will do the work, but he will tell you it's a waste of time. But you want it. You want the lawyer. You want the services, and the lawyer can't refuse it. I mean, he has a legal obligation to take on the work and do a very good job. That is a very interesting point you have mentioned over there. Mark, just going further, and just for the viewers' information, the book is not a fictional book. It's obviously non-fiction, but you've obviously trying to protect the identity of your children, and also obviously of the other party that you're involved with regarding the book, which is very admirable and actually very important that you do that. So, but people can take the book as an educational tool and try to understand the system, because it's a real life understanding of the system. So, Mark, that is my comment, but I have another question for you on a different chapter on the book. And that chapter relates to chapter 12, the restraining order, which I mentioned earlier on. Regarding that specific order, a restraining order comes with a warrant of arrest. Has that warrant of arrest been enforced against you in any way?
Well, there was arrested on an interim restraining order.
Yes.
So where that warrant of arrest came from, I don't know. Because you technically cannot, if you haven't had a chance to prove yourself in court, you cannot be, unless you got caught red-handed, you cannot have a warrant of arrest unless dire and very dangerous. Okay. So there was a lot of dirty play that was going on there with friendship circles, and perhaps even an unscrupulous lawyer on the other side. I don't know. I cannot make that comment. Feeling that somebody was driving this process in the background. yeah, the warrant of arrest. I mean, all got thrown out. I got arrested, and 2 weeks later, or I think it was 2 weeks. I mean, now I'm going back into my memory, but a week or two later, the whole restraining order was chucked out of court. So I was arrested on an interim, and it never got granted. So yes, I sat in the holding cells and in jail until the magistrate could see me. But it was immediately it was squashed straight away.
When going,
The trauma is still there. You know, I mean, this happened a few years ago already, and I made the best out of a bad situation, but the trauma is still there. And I'm not the only one, because I've heard of other cases and other people that it happened to. It happened to me twice.
Mark, when you said it happened to you twice, are you referring to the other chapter which I didn't read completely, jail time? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, well, what happened was there was two situations. I mean, the one, there was a game going on. There was a tip-off to the police anonymously by somebody that I'm a drug dealer. I don't use drugs, and I haven't used drugs in my life. So um, I then got arrested on a Tuesday, which was 5 days, and planted in my car underneath the baby seats. All right. I was in for a day. I was actually in holding cells until they processed my case. I got out on bail, and within, I think it was 10 days, I got interim restraining order. Okay, so it all went very consecutively, but because I was already out on bail, it now had to become a what did I call it? A formal bail hearing, because I was already out and about. Now it's a second offense, and in the space of 10 days. Wow. So normally you go into jail, into full on jail, um, for um, for a lengthy period of time until the magistrate, or until the matter is actually resolved. Okay. In my case, lucky to get, well, I had to, my matter was heard by the magistrate, which took a full day. And she also said, this is a very dangerous situation that you're in. You got to be very careful, because the whoever, there was another party at court that morning that even tried to resist my bail application on that second arrest. Okay, and I'd already been sitting then since Friday afternoon in the holding cell, so I was pretty much in there for 4 days. Yeah, it was a hectic story.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting because if someone have you arrested on the long weekend, and that seems to be the tendency if somebody wants to be vindictive. I'm not referring to your book or to anybody in your case, but on the long weekends, with a Friday is a public holiday and a Monday is a public holiday, and they have you arrested a Thursday, you are to be in the holding cells for that entire long weekend until the Monday, and possibly the Tuesday, because you should appear within 48 hours, and it's basically 48, working hours. So that's a challenge which we have. Mark, just off on a different issue, still regarding your this over here, your relationship with the other party at present. How is it generally? Did you guys move on?
Well, had to apply. I got the residential custody of the kids already quite early on. They were very, very young. They were babies still. So it's people say, oh yeah, fantastic, that's great. Okay. On the other hand, I say yes, it's a victory, but it's a bittersweet victory.
Hmm.
Kids need both their
Yes.
parents. Okay, no matter what the other party is like. So I mean, they have got a right to love their mom or their dad. They've got the right. So the relationship, of course, it's strained. It's been strained since we broke up, and it never healed. Okay, and this is not a this is also this book is not a case for me to get even, and to it's not like that at all. It's a book is for information purposes. So the relationship is it's quiet at the moment. There are still some pending matters that need to be resolved. But it's not as hectic as it was a couple of years ago. I mean, that was, I think, 14, 15 court cases in a row in a space of 4 years. And it was just, I nearly went under because of that. So the relationship is strained, and the kids, they have the right to see their mom, obviously, still as well. And I do. So it just needs to be. I mean, we've had many social workers, we've had many people from the courts, we've had many people from the family advocate looking at our case, and it keeps on coming back. It keeps on coming back. It's the same story over and over again. So okay, I then happen to be the better parent for them to live with, and there's still 50-50 rights responsibilities, which is maybe ideal, maybe not ideal. I've got my own personal opinions on that. But from a children's perspective, I always think, no matter, they ask me sometimes, do you hate mom? Do you know what she's done to you? Because they obviously know some things. They don't know everything, because it's not for their ears really, but they pick up a lot more than what you think. And then I'm like, well, you know what? It's your mom. You must love her the way you want her. It's absolutely. She will never not be your mom. You know what I mean? So her and I, we've got our differences, and then we leave it at that. And for the rest, it's pretty much parallel parenting. I do the bulk of it, obviously. Parenting.
Mark, thank you for that. So, Mark, let me count it here. So, you were in 4 courts: the Maintenance Court, of course, the Domestic Violence Court, the High Court. Were you in the Children's Court as well? Have you appeared in the Children's Court as well, or only those
Children's Court? Yes,
yes.
Okay, so the Domestic Violence Court, the Restraining Order Court, the Criminal Court, the because of the drug arrest, and then so Children's Court, and then Protection Order Court as well, the domestic violence. Yeah.
And the High Court as well, of course.
And High Court for the divorce itself.
You've been
Rule 43.
Yeah, you've been in 5 courts. Yeah. You experienced. I'm certain you.
At a certain point, I was appearing more in court than my own lawyer was. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm certain.
And again, it's a lot of waiting. I mean, if you think it looks like the shows that you see on TV, not at all. It's a case of sitting in the corridors and waiting and twiddling your thumbs. It's like, okay, what's going to happen? And you're all hoping that something is going to get resolved. Someone's sick, somebody is not appearing, somebody, whatever, the court case again postponed. I mean, I've had matters postponed 20, 30 times sometimes, and that actually has to stop. So there is a with our justice system, not the laws, but the justice system. Because technically speaking, yes, I mean, I've had a horrible story with my ex in this case, but technically speaking, it got made worse by the courts because of the delays, because of the non-performance of the courts. And there is a serious issue, and I think that is what bringing a lot of people under. And I understand all about maturing, the situation's got to be ripe and it's got to mature and so on and so forth. Agreed. Okay, but certain things need action and need action fast. And yes, use third parties. Get a psychologist involved if you need to. Get a social worker involved if you need to, because I can say things in court, blah, 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 okay, this and that's what happened. They're not going to believe me. The other party will go, wah, 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 back, mudslinging up and down, up and down, up and down. At the end of the day, you can bring, I mean, I've had thick piles like this of evidence. They don't even look at it. But the social worker's report or the psychologist's report, those are the ones they look at, because they are independent third parties, teachers, caregivers. Those are very important. So collect those evidences. I mean, don't bother with recording messages and so on and so forth, because they're not going to look at it. I don't know. Certain things have value, obviously, but in my experience, it didn't help much.
Now, Mark, I'm with you 100% on that. The courts, the magistrate will say, the judge will say, I'm a lawyer, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychiatrist, and when you're dealing with the child's best interest, we need to look at what the expert has to say. There are reasons why the courts have appointed social worker, psychologist, and family advocate's office. But at the same time, my personal experience are the court should also try to have some type of, with a bus approach. They should also use their brains, sometimes, and say, yes, we're still waiting for the report, but look at the facts as it is. Make, the bus decisions. Don't always wait for third parties or piggyback off third party decisions. The family advocate, social worker, so on.
I missed a piece of what you said there. You were just thinking, you were saying some type of, and then I missed that piece.
No, I'm saying that the court should sometimes take a robust approach. They shouldn't always piggyback off other professionals' reports, social workers, family advocates. They need to look at the facts as it is and make a decision based upon that. At sometimes, depending on the nature of the case, especially urgent matters, especially where one party is taking advantage of the court of the legal system. And I feel that many times the courts are hiding behind these type of professionals, and they don't. They do not. It's easier to do that. Postpone the matter. We wait for the family advocate's report, or wait for this person's report or that person's report. I don't think that is in the child's best interest. But some courts do their job better than others, and they are very robust and they make proper decisions and so on. Mark, let me just refer to one more chapter in your book. the first chapter 16, page 80, manipulating the children. Now we didn't deal much with that, but maybe you can speak about that, because that's something which I deal with on a regular basis, where parents manipulate kids, they brainwash kids. What is the book, at least where the book is concerned, what does it say about that?
Well, my personal opinion on that is if you manipulate your children to get the better of your other party, and this is my own opinion, I think you're a disgusting person, because that is, these children are made by the two of you. You made them supposedly out of love, and now you're using these very same children to manipulate the other party. And again, let's focus. We are adults. We can fight for ourselves, but our kids get dragged into this situation, and I find it very, very, very disgusting, because it hurts them. It hurts them on a long-term basis. It hurts them on a psychological, deep emotional level that leaves scarring for the rest of their lives. I mean, they are basing their future relationships and their marriages on how you behave. I mean, this is what, you will see that as your kids grow up, you see that happening. Manipulation is I think anybody who is excuse me, anybody who is doing manipulation to a minor child, setting them up against the other parent, is it should automatically qualify for a mental health test, because or training of some sort, or assistance, because this is not right. It's not the right thing to do. I mean, you've heard my feelings on it. And I think that's where it hurts. It hurts a lot of the adults too. And at the end of the day, I think it hurts both parents, because that child grows up. That child's going to leave your life at one point and goes off in the big wide world. But what tools have you given them as a parent? Okay, by alienating them from the other party, by bad mouthing them, by doing all sorts of dirty, And again, even though, I mean, I try to not discuss these things with my kids, but there are questions that come up, because they pick up things. Dad, mom says we have to go and see a judge. No, why do you have to see a judge? What for? And they get scared in their little world. Their little minds get extremely scared of these kind of things, because now I got to sit and explain, what is a judge, what is a social worker, what is a all these big names that should not even be in their vocabulary, and it's just, don't do it, guys, please, for the sake of the children and our future generations. We've got already enough narcissism in the world that we need to stop it. And my advice to parents also, just be honest. Just be blatantly honest. They will have questions. They will, I've got friends of mine who are going through divorce as well, and you see the kids are torn between the two parents, specifically when they have to choose. If the one party or the other party says, no, you have got to choose, where do you want to live? Who's your favorite? This is a product of both of you, not just the one or the other. So tone it down. I mean, and get yourself checked, because you're doing a hell of a lot of damage, not only to your child and to your relationship and your own life, but also for the future generations. And I think it's got to stop. We got to, and where necessary, we've got to intervene.
Mark, I second your comments. Thank you for that. Mark, we have two comments. I think I should maybe, for the sake of everyone, mention it. It says the following. The first comment is, hi Mark. You are speaking from the mouths of thousands of fathers here. While the courts are stopping the silver bullet method, we also need to keep in mind that any court official have personal beliefs of who should have children, and therefore they do favor one party. So that's the comment over there. And the second comment which we have is, Mark's story is close to identical to mine. It's evident we are not alone. Are the fathers that get primary residency of young children or minor children? I'll maybe answer that, or maybe you can answer that. So the first comment, yes, Mark most probably will deal with that. Mark, any comment regarding that?
Sorry, it was a silver bullet one, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? It's again, it's a disgusting approach, and the courts should take more action on this. And I just want to make a comment for all the guys out there. If anybody is still watching, I don't know, or in the future watching, I run with a psychologist in the UK. I run a group a little bit focused on narcissistic behavior, which is quite prevalent in this world at the moment. But it's for guys. It's a support group. Okay, so like we are chatting now, or we will be chatting on Thursday nights. Okay, at 9:30 South African time, we have a get together. Sometimes it's busy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes nobody pitches, but it's just more a banter, and we can focus on our feelings and our emotions. Okay, it's a closed group, so it doesn't go out to the big wide world. Nobody knows who's in it. Okay, and you can let your heart out. I mean, nobody's going to judge you on what you're going through, because a lot of us, and especially in that group, a lot of us have been through hell and back, and we give each other the coping mechanism to deal with ourselves. Okay, so that is the one thing I wanted to put out there as well. Okay.
Now, Mark, thank you very much. And the second comment where the person said, let me get to that one quickly, a different screen. Are there fathers that get primary residency of young or minor children? Okay, that's a legal question. My quick answer to that is yes, it often happens. I represent clients and we successfully get primary residency. But maybe, Mark, you can give your opinion on that. Today's issue is about you.
Sorry, what is the exact question?
Sorry, are the fathers of young children who get custody over those kids or primary residency over those kids? Do you know of any of those cases?
Well, I'm the prime example. And again, like I mentioned earlier on in the discussion, it's pardon me, it's a bittersweet victory, because ideally, of course, you want both parents involved, whether you guys get along or not. I mean, do it together. But yes, there are fathers. I mean, I've got primary residency. I mean, the kids, I think, were 2 and 3 when I got them. They were in nappies still. And you know what, it's a hard job. It's very rewarding, and I must say, I do often see there are other fathers who've got primary residency. It's a tough job, but I mean, fathers are coping, and we're doing all right. So, and that's actually another book I'm writing at the moment. It's more a comedy about the issues we face as single parents. It's not specifically for fathers, but as single parents. My perspective is obviously from a male perspective, and how this chaos unfolds in our lives. And the skeptics are, oh, you never can do it. I did it, and I did it pretty much on my own. Of course, the family helped a bit, but on the day-to-day, I did everything on my own, from changing nappies to making bottles to taking them to preschool, etc., putting them in bed, and still to this day, I mean, I'm just cooking every night. You got to do it. So if single moms can do it, single dads can do it too. And of course, we got very good parents and we got very bad parents out there.
Yeah, Mark, there's been obviously a change in my experience, a change in shift over the last maybe 20 years, or 15 to 20 years. The courts have been going away with the stereotype belief that mothers are better primary caregivers over minor children. That is just outdated. Of course, when the child is born, the child comes out, the mother will be the best one to care for the child in the very infant stages, in the first few months. Of course, it makes logical sense from a biological point of view. But going beyond that, and if it is a dispute between the parents, mothers go to work at the early age of the child's age, fathers do exactly the same. So there shouldn't be any discrimination between the two. If the father is a better caregiver, yes. If the mother is a better caregiver, yes. That is what was happening. Mark, we're moving on. We're now 40 minutes into the show, and I'd like to wrap up for now. Mark, show us the book and just speak a bit about the book. How can I get it?
Okay, book is slowly but surely populating the shelves. Okay, there are a couple of shops in Joburg that have got them. It's going to be on takealot.com in the next, I would say, 24, 48 hours. Then we've also got online Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, or you can pop me an email. That address should be down here. I think the email address is below. Pop me an email, pop me a WhatsApp, and then I can arrange for delivery. I've got courier services available as well. So look forward to it.
No, wonderful. Or they can just Google you and get your details from the phone, and it should pop up immediately. You have a website as well. I never typed it on the screen. What's the details on the website?
My website is www.marklefons.com. Okay, there you can also send me an email directly from there. You can pop it through, and I've got a distribution company that can actually handle it as well. They are available in Melville in the bookshop there, and the big bookstores. There's also one in town you can get it from. So a couple of independent bookstores. It will be in Cape Town shortly, but for now I'm just distributing at the moment also to the bigger bookstores from here. And yeah, I've got stock available at the moment, but it's going out fast. So I'll have to do a new print run soon.
Mark, it's very exciting. I'm very glad, and I'm glad I got my copy, the digital copy. So, but I would like to purchase one. I need to put it in my office. I need to put it in my office so people
Your
can see it.
bookshelf.
Yeah, my bookshelf.
I
Yes,
want to see it. I want to see it behind you in the
yes.
bookshelf. Yeah.
So my next webinar it will be behind me, and they can refer to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Now,
Great.
Mark, it was a wonderful chat. I'm really happy. As I said, now the chat is about you, about a layperson's view on the system. I mean, I'm easy to give my view from my angle, from a legal angle. The judge can do the same, an attorney, an advocate do the same. But you need to have it from the a successful party's view. And obviously, you went through many challenges. You're in court, and you know you've been through the whole rigmarole. So you can speak a lot. Mark, any final words on your side before we go on? Before we finish
guys, keep your sanity about you. Make it about the children, not about yourself. Okay, don't go into drugs and drinking and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't help either. Those parties don't last in any case. And yeah, be strong, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and I think let's stand together. Get your stories out there. People need to know these stories. You know, I'm not the only one. You're not the only one. Although I thought I was the only one, it's not. And a narcissist is not somebody that stands in front of the mirror admiring themselves. A narcissist is actually a very dangerous disease for people in the surroundings. Okay, so keep your head about yourself, keep your wits about yourself, look for support, and give us a shout. Read the book and let me know the comments. I would love to hear from you. Oh, cheers.